Hi guys, and welcome to another Facehammer show. In this show, I'm talking about the Grand Army of Cathay, as they've now gone up for, well, not pre-order, but coming for pre-order this weekend. And we've seen what's going to be available, so I thought it's a good time to go back and recap some of the articles that have been on Warhammer community for little tidbits of information and give some predictions about this new faction for the old world, which is really exciting because we've not had a new army for the old world since probably, and someone might correct me, Ogre Kingdoms, maybe the original most up-to-date army that was new. I can't think of another one after that. Obviously, we had different lists, but I believe that was the newest range and kind of the hotness at the time. They were very, very popular. They were very good, but they were very popular. So I think that's probably the last time there was a new army. But yeah, this is kind of exciting that we've got a whole new range. And obviously, this dates back to Warhammer Total War and Creative Assembly collaborating with its design studio, and they had the foresight even back then to give them 8th edition profiles, and so the Creative Assembly knew how they would fit into the other factions. So we know a little bit about their stats. If you're into Total War and you know what they're like in Total War, you can do a cross comparison, kind of make some guesses, and also the lore that's been scattered throughout the old world going back a long time, so there's some nods to that. So these articles, particularly the ones that talk to the designers, there's some really useful information in there. But I'm going to get into the articles, and they're all on Warhammer community. They've been out for a while, ones go back to March. You can read them yourselves. I just thought I'd give you a summary if you didn't have the time, or you kind of just wanted to be brought up to date without trawling through the website trying to find the articles. So yeah, so without further ado, let's go. So back in March, we had the Adepticon Preview revealed Cathay, and it talked about these stuff in here. Now, I'm not going to go through this article because it's a bit old, and it's kind of been replaced a little bit by the preview of what's on pre-order. And there are some, different things that might come out of this that are useful. Interesting enough that Miao Ying, she doesn't look like she's on pre-order. So if we look at the Sunday preview, so we've got the Arcane Journal, we've got the Battalion, we've got the Longma, the Gate Master, so the Longma as well, like as interest. So it looks like with this box set with the cavalry and infantry. So it says the Jade Warriors can be shields or halberds, and hammer shields or halberds. So obviously the halberds guys don't have shields out because they're two-handed weapons. Whether or not you can give them shields and halberds when you purchase them in your army list, I don't know. If you can't, that's a bit of a bummer because you kind of want the extra protection. It looks like they're in heavy armor. I'd be surprised if they're in full plate. Maybe that's a way to make them a little bit more elite, because they're still humans, right? I don't know how they're going to stat-wise make them different to Empire or Bretonnian Knights. They're going to be weapon skill 4, they're going to be weapon skill 5, are they going to have extra initiative, are they going to be toughness 4, are they going to have extra strength? It doesn't look like they're much different to any other normal human, so yeah, I'd be surprised if they've got any toughness or strength increase. The cavalry, it says here, are shock cavalry. So I reckon these are more on the elite side of things. And they kind of need it, because if you've only got 2 units on release that are like what I call traditional units, they kind of need to be able to do something. You've got the cannons, so they're grand cannons. So I guess they would fire a bit like the great cannon rather than the normal cannon. And fire rain rocket batteries. So I don't really know what they were doing. I think in the other article with the cannon, it mentions they're flaming. It says, I'll go back up to it. It says in here, oh, that's the rocket battery. So this one says, some of their finest work, they belch flaming cannonballs. So I guess it's a flaming attack. Whether that's good or bad, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like, you don't always want to be flaming, but kind of interesting. Whether or not as well there might be some explosive element to it, I don't know, because it's quite a big barrel on that cannon. I mean, that's a hefty thing, isn't it? So, and then the rocket battery, it doesn't really give any information, but I guess it's going to fire a bit like a Hellstrom. If I was going down that route. You get transfers, which are cool. So the Longma, which is like your mounted hero, they mentioned this in the lore article I'm going to talk about in a minute, and it's basically means like horse dragon or dragon horse, and it's basically going to be like a Pegasus. Apparently in Chinese culture there's like a flying unicorn, but it doesn't have wings, and it would look a bit weird as a model that you've got a horse and it flies. It doesn't have any way, it looks like it flies. So they decided to make up this dragon horse, which I think is pretty cool. The rider, it says in here that they're sort of good, greatest generals, but also it says Shuing Gang wizards. I'm going to butcher a lot of this, I'm afraid. These pronunciations have a safe place to cast the incantation. So there is no mage model like that I've seen, other than the spirit dragon woman special character. So basically, it looks like you can have a wizard on this. It does sort of say there's ones that cast and those that are more martial go into combat. Whether or not they've got any difference in stat or hero type, maybe there's alternate heads and weapons, so maybe you can build this guy as a wizard or as a combat guy. They might have different profiles, or it might be the same type and they're just a mixed hero, that they're a bit of magic, bit of fighting, and maybe the upgrades you take can improve those areas, like maybe the weapon, or you have like a book or some shit, I don't know. But basically it looks like this is where you're going to get your magic. Now, because they're winged, they can't join the cavalry, so you can't really make a cavalry bus. So I think if I was getting this box set, and I'm going to try and get one, I would probably build these as 2 units of 5 rather than 1 unit of 10. You do have a hero option, which is on a horse, which is this Gate Master. And I think you can make them a BSB, whether on foot or on mounted. I think you can swap the arms around, basically, so you can choose what you want. And basically it says that 2 Gate Masters, interchangeable arms, one with a battle standard, the other with celestial blade and shield, dealer's choice. So I guess you could put this combo on this, or you could put this combo on this. Whether or not you want a battle standard, but it does give you a mounted hero. It doesn't sound like they're like a minor hero, like a hero, not a lord level hero, to use the old acronyms for lords and heroes. So maybe I think this would be, like a 2 wound hero. And I'm not sure how, with like lower magic item points, how good that they're actually going to be. So I don't think like a cavalry bust build is going to be viable. So I think this does look like you're going to be quite limited about what units you can have. You don't have any like normal archers. So, you've got war machines. So you do have some ranged. It does sound like you can have a wizard in here. It sounds to me that's going to play very similar to Bretonians. And you're probably going to have these flying heroes as your mainstay to go out and get points, along with your shooting. Now you do have the Sky Lantern, which looks humongous. There's actually an army shot I'll show in a minute, which shows you the sort of size of these, and it looks like you get a hero you could put on foot as well. So it says that they're mobile gun platforms, so again it's more shooting, and it says they scout enemies, so maybe they scout, I don't know. Vast floating lantern, and it says that it has a favourite of magistrates, which are strategists, excel at organising. So maybe there's a support hero, maybe like an engineer. It's quite a cool model, actually, that guy. I like him. So it basically comes to mount either a magistrate or a strategist, although this miniature can also be used on foot. The crew can be built with iron hail guns and dragonfire bombs, or long-barreled crane guns. So it looks like you either get a shorter range bomb option, or you get a long-range sort of sniper option. And it says can have a bomb rack, and it comes with a transfer sheet. So I don't know. I guess this. I don't know how these sort of things are a bit weird, because like you'd think they would be kind of immune to being attacked, but obviously it's Warhammer, so you're gonna have to be able to charge it and stuff. So it's kind of yeah, I don't know, because it looks like it wouldn't put up much of a fight. So I don't know. It does depend on its rules. It could be really cool. It could be like very expensive as well. You know, you've got like a lot of stuff going on there. Particularly as a hero mount, it's going to eat your hero points. Whether or not you can have one without a hero, it does say that you mount either or, but it also says you can put them on foot, so there must be an option to have no character in there. I imagine it's probably rare, I'm guessing, but I mean, there is a lot of the army shots show 3 of them, so maybe they're not. I don't know. The Sentinel, now this is kind of like your big monster. I don't know how good it's going to be. It's on a huge base. If you look at, right, I've gone back and found the army shot. So here's the army shot. Now you can see this is a unit of 20 guys, right? That's the Sentinel. That base is gigantic. That's got to be 100 by 150, which then, you know, makes me think these are on 25mm bases. It's like, so that inherently comes with issues. It's probably going to obviously be close order. So it has to wheel and things like that. It obviously doesn't fly. It doesn't have wings. So they might be quite slow. It's probably a very good support for an infantry block. I would quite like 2, because I like the idea of a gate with sentinels on each side. It's got nothing to do with rules. It's just aesthetic. You've got the 2 poses as well. It says you get different weapon options. You can change the weapon ends and things. But obviously looks pretty cool. Now, the Sentinel is probably my favourite thing in the range, so I definitely would like to build a list around them. Here you can see the 3 lanterns that I mentioned. And they're on, like, looks like that massive flying base. Can't see the size of the base, but obviously look at the size of that. That's like the height of that. I mean, that's just asking for people to knock it over. I would suggest, if you're gonna, like with these flying base things, I always do it. I would get a 5mm brass rod. And use a saw and cut a length, and then use that, and it'll never break. For me, that's what I do with all my flyers. You can even get you can order a tube, and then also a rod that will go in the tube, and then it's almost like a telescopic thing. So you can lift the lantern I use all my dragons, so they just slide into the base, so I can remove them if I want to for gaming purposes, or I'm worried it's going to get knocked off the table or something. Yeah, so they look like a pain in the ass to transport. So also very complicated kit. If you look at all these like strings and these little contact points, prone to breaking. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to have the patience to build multiple of them. They look like a nightmare. That's a big project. It's a bit like one of the Krajon ships. But anyway, talk about the Sentinels. So the Sentinels, they're huge, good and bad. Generally a bit annoying because it means you get a lot of attacks against them. They're difficult to fit in, really, in Warhammer, and this is why I think they'll go well with a block, because once the block's engaged, they can tag the corner, just on the side, because you don't really want, you want a lot of combat power in a small area. That's the most powerful stuff in the game. That's why things like the Brett Peg Lord is so powerful, because it's a lot of power in a small footprint, but also it's 360 degree and it flies, so you can deliver it where you need it. That's why dragons are good, because they can see over things, they can charge over things, and they've a lot of combat power in a fairly small footprint. You know, like a dragon base is smaller than this, and it's going to probably be better than this in combat, I imagine. I mean, this might be hench. It might be absolutely, like, really, really powerful, like toughness 8 or something stupid, because it's made of stone. I don't know. But if it's toughness 6 with 5 wounds or something like that, it's just not going to be that survivable. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what the stat line is, so I'm just guessing. I'll just be surprised if it was that, you know, if it was much more than, you know, a War Sphinx or a Necro Sphinx kind of stat. I know it's on a bigger base, but I'd be a bit surprised. So we'll go back to the actual reveal article from Adepticon. You can see here, this is obviously painted in a different colour. And it says here, constructive materials such as terracotta, jade, and even warpstone, each material offering different properties. So maybe you've got different rules depending on the type of material you're built out of. I mean, that would be pretty cool. Obviously, this might be jade, this is terracotta, so I'm interested to see what a warpstone Sentinel would look like. But I think these are cool. They're really cool models. You've got this weird, looks like undersuit with cracks in it. It'd be nice if you could paint that and then put the armor panels on, or leave some of them off for exposed under Sentinel stuff, because you can't really see enough of the undersuit. There's definitely going to be some cool stuff you can do with object source lighting or OSL. So that would be interesting. Anyway, so that was just what I wanted to touch on with that, because I don't know if they will, but that's, you know, they look pretty cool. I imagine they're going to be fairly expensive, these kits as well. Then you got dice and cards. Obviously, the cards, I know everyone rushes to buy them. I don't really see the point of the cards. I think they're kind of, the magic cards 100%, but the reference cards, you have loads of magic item stuff, but you don't really need it. You know, you're better off just writing a summary of what's in your list. The dice are cool, very clear, which is my favourite thing I look for in dice. So I'll probably try and get a set of these. Then the match play guide is out as well, which hopefully I'll be able to do a full breakdown on that. And for Facehammer GT, we're going to be using this, so I want to find the right rules in here, what we're going to use for the event, and update the rules pack accordingly. And quick plug on that, tickets are still on sale for Element Games. If you go to facehammer.co.uk, there's a pinned article all about Facehammer GT 2025. You know, tickets are on sale now for Element Games, £60. Please come along, support. You get pizzas on each day for lunch. There's 5 games. It's good atmosphere. There's a bar there. We can stay open late on the Saturday night, generally on the Friday night as well. The hotel just across the road, Premier Inn. It's fairly cheap. Get yourself there, and we can have a lot of fun. So that's my shameless plug out the way. So going back to Cathay then. So in this article, it talks about how they went about making the army. So I'm not going to go through all of this. They sort of say it started in 2018, and they basically wanted to make it for the computer game. In 2019, they wanted some background. So I think what the design studio did, they spent some time looking at Cathay before Old World was really a thing. And I think there was articles on the Warhammer community website about this topic, and I think Kislev as well. As we actually started before we knew that it was coming back. But they treated it like an army for Warhammer, which was just as well, really. So here you can see Total War 3. I've not played enough Total War to know how the units stack up against other races, so I couldn't tell you if they're like what that means stat-wise. But what I can tell you is that they did say in here that they actually went and looked through all the books and looked for any references, And they said the Lisbon book from 5th edition is a story about a sailor from Cathay. I actually remember that. I've got that book here. And then basically they tried to make some more cohesion about it. But also one of the most interesting things really is they actually thought about how it would look on the tabletop as if they were models. And they said that they couldn't show long robes, etc., because of the wireframe of the models. But they wanted to make models, basically. So basically, they designed it like they were going to be models. And they even wrote 8th edition rules for them, so they knew where they sat against other armies, so they can compare it, which I thought was quite interesting. They talk a lot about Chinese culture and how they wanted to be respectful to the heritage and not a stupid Western idea of Asia, mixing all the things up and not really knowing, and also being sensitive to any designs that might be offensive or things like that, which I think is really good. So they talk about the Longma. They wanted to make a Quillin, which is a Chinese unicorn that flies, but actually it doesn't work as a model because it just looks like as a horse. It doesn't fly. Although I guess a lot of people would love a unicorn model that they could actually use in other armies. But there you go. So they made their own dragon up, which is Dragon Horse. That's the bit they were talking about there. And it talks about mountain armor. And it talks about sculptures and pictures of mythical heroes. No one has actually been able to replicate it. And they said for their heroes and terracotta sentinels, it's fantasy armor basically. So they took that, and they obviously designed the lantern and things like that. So it's just an interesting article if you want a time to read it, and look through those. I really like this where it shows the inner and the alive sentinel with the inner glow, and you can see the model's got these holes. So I think there'd be some clever people who can use like LEDs and put lights in and shit like that. I mean, I've seen it for 40k. It'd be cool if someone does it for these models. You imagine like the helmet glowing and the chest glowing. That'd be cool. Obviously not quite got the long skirt that's in this concept art, but similar. And it says in here that they basically they use rules for 8th edition with unit profiles to give them the context to fit them into Total War. So it does say if a Cathanian had a movement of 6, they would understand. So I don't know if they are movement 6, but there you go. Maybe they're fast rather than tougher or like the normal humans. And then we've got the history. This one's quite an interesting article. So basically the way that they talk about Cathay in the old world is that the Cathay region itself is as big as the old world, and it's like there's a lot going on there. And they talk about like Nippon and other things, and even Hobgoblin Mongolian tribes, which they say they're not planning to do at this moment. But we used to have the Kubla Khan regiment of renown, I think it was, and his goblins. But anyway, so there's there's mentions of this stuff. So basically what these Cathayans are is a expedition into the old world. It's not like the Cathay area is like part of the old world setting. So it's almost like they're not from there, a bit like the elves, right? So they're saying that the reason they're there is because of the Kislev. Because once Kislev is open, that's their main route into the old world. And when Kislev falls, when Asfakul sacks Prague, which sounds like that's their Siege of Terror. It's mentioned quite a lot where JTY mentions it being like their Horus Heresy. That's probably the Siege of Terror, fall of the Emperor or whatever, like the climax is Asfakul sacking of Prague. So this is the lead up. So whether or not we get to that point over next editions and stuff, I don't know. But once Kislev falls, Cathay kind of lose their connection, and they end up, as Chaos ascends, they spend all their time fighting Chaos separately, and they don't really get involved with the old world, which is the sort of the European region of the map. So I think it's quite interesting the way they've done that. And they talk about dragons can assume human form. And there's a dragon empire who's been around since the time of the old ones, and learned magic from the old ones and was patient. And then when the old ones moved the planet closer to the sun, he wasn't very happy about it. They don't really like the old ones. They kind of, and he's had like children, and the Empress is like a dragon from Morslib, or one of the moons, basically. And just quite cool that they've really thought about the like the dragon children, and they mention there's a group of them, and this Miao Ying, she's the one that they're focused on with this book. So here we can see in here that they talk about it's connected to the old world through Kislev, more than the area of Karl Franz, because the world's changed. Giving up on the old world by the time of Karl Franz, too busy defending chaos. That's why they're not in the old game. That's their justification, which is quite cool. It says, the retreat after the Great War close is like our Horus Heresy. The characters believe a great victory has been won, chaos defeated, but it hasn't. They've returned to the world. The shadow never retreats. All those Kislevite settlements that extend beyond the Great Steppe become Marauder tribes, and relationships change, trade routes shut down. So that's the 2,000 years, because this is set 2,000 years before the original. So it says here, you can see the cities on our maps, like the interactive one available here. Pay attention because clues are there, exclamation point. This is the main route from it. Grand Cathay is connected to the old world, and all that ends after the siege of Prague. Asavakul is defeated, but the world changes and Grand Cathay becomes more distant. So this is the map that they've got here. And you've got this wall, and this is actually not in the old world. This is Cathay itself. So you've got the wall, obviously the chaos for the north, and you've got the Celestial Mountains and all these bits and bobs. I think a lot of this is from Total War. Now, the route, I believe, is this trade route here and this river. So there's like a dotted line hanging off here. I know there's a few like these little ones, but this is like a main dotted line. And I think, if I'm wrong, I might be wrong. So this is the interactive map. Now, actually, this is pretty cool because this, as they release stuff, you can like click on stuff and it gives you a bit of information. Now, obviously, we're looking at, this is the lands of Kislev, and there's a dotted line coming in here. So whether or not this is the trade route, I mean, it's going to be one of these. Now, I thought it might be the old Silk Road, but that's all the way down here, which echoes the actual real-life Silk Road. Yeah, this is the old Silk Road here. It comes up to the Border Princes and goes all the way up this way and off the map with the river. So I was thinking maybe that's where it is, but yeah, there's some really cool little things on here. Like, you know, you scan on here and you look at the Dwarf Mountain holds, and this doesn't have anything. It's not highlighted, so maybe that's something they might do. You know, you've got like different things you can click on. It tells you about the tribe. But there's obviously quite a lot in here. And I think there's even, there it is, the Chaos Dwarf symbol. And obviously for people who know their background, this is where the Chaos Dwarfs are, and you've got this area here, the Darklands, but this is the kind of the Isengard of Warhammer, if you want to use that. I'm pretty sure that's the inspiration for it, because the Black Hawks are like Uruk-hai basically, and they were made by the Chaos Dwarfs, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so yeah, but obviously you've got this road coming off here, and this is very Kislevite, into the lands of Kislev, into the main Kislev city, and then into the old world. So obviously I think they've got boats as well, but obviously there's no real waterway to come through. You'd have to come all the way around, much like the problem with there's no Suez Canal here. So you have to come all the way around the Southland, so I'm not sure, or up north, and it doesn't look like there's a break in here, and it's obviously Chaos Waste, so you don't really go that way. But anyway, that's enough about geography. So yeah, so it was quite interesting that they mentioned that. And it says here, Cathayan ships are not an unusual sight in Marienburg, so that's another way that lever they can pull. It says, what's rare is dragons to come. It could look like an invasion fleet. Now, this is the bit here. It says, what's rare is for dragons to come to the old world, and at the head of an army, it looks like it could be an invasion fleet, which is what we get into in the second Cathay and Arcane Journal, ... So it looks like there's another Cathay book coming, which would make sense to expand on the range and stuff. I mean, obviously, don't know what that time frame looks like, but it does look like they're going to expand the range at some point, which is pretty cool, because it definitely could do with some more units. But yeah, interesting. So, and they are a good faction. I mean, we could do with some more Ravening Hordes at this point and get a bit outnumbered. And say, and then it talks about the Dragon Lord and about the old ones, and he's in opposition, which is this chap, the Dragon Lord, he basically he's immortal and he's been around since then, and he remembers the oldest dragon ogres before they signed their pact with Chaos. It says he might even the oldest forgotten dragons who sleep beneath Ulthuan in the world's edge mountains. He says he's aware of Croak, and he may have even known Galrock before he was corrupted, so it gives you an idea of the longevity. He says his consort, Kui Yin, is not of this world. She's a moon dragon and manslib after the old worlds appeared. So and she taught them how to do human form. They have 9 children, all of the dragons. And they basically say, like, Mao Ying, which is the one we've got, Zhao Ming, the Iron Dragon, Yan Bo, the Jade, Yin Yin, the Sea, and Li Dao, the Fire. 2 more are named, yet dead or missing. Shiyama, the Spirit Dragon, who guards the underworld, and Shenzhou, who's lost in the Chaos Wastes. As for the other 2, it's a bit like missing Primarchs. ... So this might be a hint that they're going to bring them in, because obviously, like, missing Primarchs, and I'm not very up to date on 40k lore, but obviously Lionel Johnson was brought into 40k, and he was a missing Primarch. I don't know who the other missing Primarch was, but obviously they've started to bring Primarchs in, like Angron, Fulgrim, things like that. So I don't know. Or maybe it might be Lehman Russ, actually. Not that they've done him yet in 40k. Obviously, he's in Heresy, but they all are. I don't know. That does seem like a hint, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'd imagine if they've got this many dragon children and they talked about a second book, logically, there would be another dragon introduced. But hey-ho. The Monkey King is worth mentioning. Apparently, in the Genevieve Undead books, which was a series a long time ago, they talk about a Grand Cathay agent who mentions the Monkey King as being the ruler. And they're like, well, that doesn't really fit with their Dragon Empire Immortal rule. So what they do is they basically say that he was tricked into thinking he ruled Cathay for a period. He's a very real character living in the mountains of heaven. Whether or not they do anything with the Monkey King, because apparently he even appointed a representative of Clan Eshin as an advisor. And it's like janky lore. There is some mention about vampires. So it says that vampires fled. The Genevieve book is about vampires, so it makes sense. It says here that they fled Nakara and ended up there. And Hecate, who is named in certain novels, the Jade Blooded do exist, which I think are like a different strain of vampires. They didn't want to take Chinese Yangshi, which are basically hopping vampires who've got stiff-limbed, but they're not Warhammer, so basically they're not going to be like those. I don't know anything about that, so I'm just reading what it says. And they tried to avoid any horror, and they said they're not relevant to the old world, so a bit like the Tiger Men and Hobgoblin Carnites, which is like Mongolians, I guess. It just says, I'd like to see any of these on the battlefields of the old world anytime soon. So it doesn't mean they're not. but they are fun to consider as part of a larger part of the world of Legends. So maybe we might see Hobgoblin Carnates at some point. Who knows? It's just saying that it's been around a long time. Cathay, like, it's been mentioned a lot, and then they go into detail about how they tried to be, like, respectful and things like that. So there's some little hints and tips in there. I think it's exciting to know they're going to expand on the range again. Whether or not in Total War there's some units that would round this out. Let's have a look, actually. So what could be in the Cathay second book? Let's just guess. This is Total War unit roster, right? So you got Mao Young, the Storm Dragon. There's the Iron Dragon, the Jade Dragon. So these two have got are in Warhammer Total War. So they look like they're obviously prime candidates to be brought into the Cathay roster. Shi Yang the Watcher, which looks like a Sentinel with wings. So Gotrix and Felix. Obviously, that's more to do with Total War rather than the Cathay. And you've got like a Shenguin Lord, and then you've got a Lord Magistrate, a Celestial General. So I don't think we've seen this guy. Astromancer, an Alchemist, the Gate Master, we've seen a model for that. Model-wise, Jade Warriors, obviously we've got those. The Peasant Long Spearmen, so they're like a weaker infantry. Celestial Dragon Guard could be an elite version of the infantry we might see. Our archers, Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. Now, I would say these are probably something they would definitely release. Iron Hail Gunners, so like handgunner peasants. So there's a peasant range here: archers, handgunners, and infantry. Whether or not they do the peasants, I don't know. Obviously, having some cheap throwaway. You've got Crane Gunners, which you've got these Pervase. I mean, maybe that's another set they would release. And Celestial Dragon Crossbows, which looks like they're the... And then they got Nangao Grenadiers, so like bombs. Light Cavalry, and then the Great Longma Riders. So these look like... These are units of flying dragon cavalry, which would fit really well with the hero and with Pegasus Knight type thing. Onyx Crowman War Beasts. I mean, that's weird, maybe. You've got the Sentinel. There's a Jet Lion, so there's these lions, so that might be a thing. The Moon Bird, the Sky Lantern, which we've got. Don't know what this is. The Sky Yunk, whatever that is. The War Drum, that might be something. There's the Grand Cannon, the Rain Rocket. We've got those. So yeah, it looks to me then that if you were going to sort of say what would come in the next range, I would say this Longma cavalry, maybe one other like war machine like the War Drum. There's these Jade Lions that might come in. The Moonbirds, I don't know about these. You've got the Peasants, and then you've got like the Crossbowmen and the Bombers. The Peasant Bomber kit, maybe this and the Archers would be a thing. Or maybe the Iron Gunners and the Grenadiers are a set. I don't know. Peasant Horsemen as well. So this makes them very similar to Brett's, and almost like Brett's mixed with Empire. If they end up having dragons plus Pegasus-like heroes, plus a flying unit of heavy cavalry, plus light infantry and cavalry, and they've got war machines, they're going to be like Empire and Bretonnians mashed together and just better. So anyway, I thought it was interesting to show what's in Total War because it kind of foretells what might come into Old World in the future. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and obviously you've got the other two dragons. Whether or not this is free releases, like 1, 2, 3, and on each one they'll expand, I don't know. But and this is all just me guessing. Okay, so don't read too much into it. I don't have any inside knowledge about what's coming. I don't know what's happening, so it's just me guessing. And then yeah, so that's Cathay. So it's that pre-order. I would say that for now, like I think I'm going to try and get 2 Sentinels, 1 Lantern, the box set, the hero, maybe 2 of the heroes on Longma, and just for completion purposes, get the Gatekeeper. I might end up having to get 2 boxes of the infantry and cavalry, but I tend to find that you don't need that many troops. I'd probably wait for the cavalry to come out separately and to get another unit of those. Because I don't think you're going to want more of the infantry and more of the artillery. But I'm definitely going to get myself some Cathay, just because I really want to play games with them and see what they're like. So I'm looking forward to it. But that's just a quick update of what's going on, what little tidbits of information we've got from the articles, and what's going up for pre-order. And hopefully when I get the Arcane Journal, I will give a full breakdown of all the rules. Whether or not that might end up being on release, because I've not heard anything like in terms of samples or anything like that from GW, so I don't know what's going on. So this article went up as I was recording the other bit, so I thought I would add it to the end of the video, because I hadn't edited yet. So the iconography of the Eternal Empire, this article just gone up today. So this is quite interesting because it kind of gives some insights into what I was talking about already. So here you can see this like picture, and you've got cavalry, the Gatekeeper, the warriors, the mount, a dragon, Sentinel. So a lot of that is what's in the release, right? But there's also this side of it, to the yin and the yang. So if you look at here, you've got yin and yang, and these are meant to be the twin-tailed comet. There's some talk later on about how they tried to put old world meaning behind Chinese iconography and come to a Warhammer unique, but also respectful of China. And it is definitely respectful of Chinese culture, this whole faction. So here you've got the Sky Lanterns, and you've actually got the bird things, the Crowman and that Phoenix thing that I sort of showed you when I went to the Total War units. So maybe they're coming. And then there's another dragon, which is the Yang dragon, and actually it doesn't show it as black, but they mention that the reason that in Chinese like culture, black isn't associated with death; it's associated with like purity and something else. But then white is death. So maybe this is like another one of the Iron Dragon or something. I don't know enough about it. But also got the rocket battery here. So if going by this, maybe this is some extra releases coming. Some flyers, which should be good. You know, it may not have anything to do with future releases. It might just be artwork. But yeah, it does seem interesting. So they talk about like Warhammer. So one of the things is quite interesting is the reason they've got octagons is because in Chinese culture that's like a protection symbol, but obviously in Warhammer it's like the 8 winds of magic. Which I thought was quite interesting. And they took like Chinese dragons, but they wanted to make them look Warhammery, so they didn't give them a pug nose. They've done like horns on them, so they make them look a bit more like Warhammer dragons. This is about the octagon thing here. I thought it was really interesting, this article, actually, and it talks about the spiritual compass from Taoist Fort, and that's the Wuxing compass, which I think is a unit in Total War. So I imagine that might be coming as a model, because they talk about it quite a bit in this article. And what's interesting is they say that the Emperor and Empress are the most powerful sorcerers in the world. Sorry, Techless. And more powerful than the Slan. The magic flows through the Grand Cathay Mountains, float there basically. So it's very, you can see here the floating mountains in the background. So they're very spiritual and respectful of the Empire. So not just Empire with dragons. And they talk about like some of the home cities and things like that. But really, that's kind of mostly important. They talk about this armor pattern, this triangle pattern as well, which apparently would be massively impractical, but looks cool. And they call it mountain armor. So that might have special rules for being mountain armor. They do mention the yin and the yang and say that they have in-game effects. So maybe there's like your units have like 2 stances or 2 like things they can do, or formations like yin formation. I don't know. I mean, there's some cool levers you could pull from a games design point of view for sure. And then yeah, they want it to appeal to people in China. They want it to make it look like it fits, all this kind of stuff. And they want it to fit into the old world setting. And the transfers, apparently the Sky Lantern, it's got all the houses, so it tells you like whether it's got crane guns or bombs, and then you've got the different symbols in different colors. You've got like metallic silver, metallic gold, black. So yeah, it's quite nice. And there's like 4 transfer sheets. There's one for like the Warriors and Jade Lancers. There's one for the Gate Master. There's like, I mean, I thought the shields were sculpted, but it looks like there's like shield designs. I don't think the shields are not. They got to be 3D, surely. I thought they were, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll have a look in a sec. Let's have a look. Oh, they look 3D to me. Maybe they are 2D. It's really hard to see, isn't it? I mean, they look 3-dimensional. I don't know why you wouldn't make them 3-dimensional. But anyway, that's definitely 3D. Because I mean, I'm not a big 40k or heresy guy, so I don't use transfers a lot. I mean, I know they've got a lot better than in the past, but yeah, I don't know if I would want to be doing transfers. But maybe they're just on there for banners. I don't know. This is the Gatemaster sigil. That's a lot of transfers for a Gatemaster. I mean, like, what's he got on him? A banner? This is Northern Imperial banner and cloaked edging designs. And then you've got, yeah, I don't know, flame motifs. Horse tack, cloak edging, sash details, banner designs. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of stuff, isn't it? Apparently there's 4. They're going to release another transfer sheet later in the year. They'll sell it separately. More colours and effects. These are probably similar to like the Heresy and Imperialis ones. Because I've got the Legio Mortis ones, and they're really nice. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. So this is another bit of more information about Cathay. It looks like they're going to be doing some articles every day, which is nice. One thing they do say as well, that the battalion, they said it was going to be only when stocks last. That's not right. It's going to be ongoing. So although it'll probably sell out straight away, you will be able to get your hands on it eventually. So I imagine that this is going to sell crazy fast, like the Cathay stuff. So I'll definitely be trying to get my pre-orders in straight away. I think they're going to be quite expensive, from what I can see. Like, there's been some leaks of prices in euros. I mean, I don't normally talk about leaks, but I would say that the Sky Lantern and the Sentinel look like they're going to be pretty expensive kits. I mean, the Sentinel looks like it's the size of a Mega Gargant, so I mean, hopefully it's not £140, but I think it would be north of £80 mark for sure. And I reckon the Sentinel, the Sky Lantern's probably not far off it, if not more, just due to the complexity of it. And that looks massive as well. So yeah, but I mean, fine. I mean, they're not like you need to have lots of them, is it? So it's Warhammer's expensive anyway. So if you're playing Warhammer, you're probably just used to paying the money. I know I've spent more on old dwarfs than I've probably new armies for a while, but no, it's a pretty cool article. So I just thought I'd add that on to the end of the show because I literally recorded it and then I saw this article was out. So I was like, okay, well, let's add a bit more information. So more information about Cathay, always good. Watch this space. I will obviously be doing more videos on it. I've got my Beastman book now, so I'll be doing a Beastman review. That'll be going up shortly. And I've written some dwarf lists. So I've got 3 2,000-point dwarf lists, and I'm going to take one of them, I think, to the one day in July in Swindon. And I'm leaning towards... I've got one variant with the Slayer King, which is a bit of a fun list. I've got one without war machines, and I got one, and it's got iron drakes and iron breakers in it. And then I've got one list with hammerers and war machines. So probably leaning to the hammerers one, just because I like the concept of hammerer unit. I think they're quite cool. I would actually see if they fit into Royal Clan as well, because I think in Royal Clan you're restricted on what units you can take, but I'm pretty sure everything I've taken is available apart from gyrocopters, which is the only thing. So it's whether or not I go into Royal Clan and take double stone thrower, but I'll probably stay in the normal dwarf list, because I really like the idea of running 3 gyros, double cannon. Just think it's what's needed for the game at the moment. Because with the Iron Drakes, you could drop the cannons, because I think they are as good as a cannon is at doing damage. Part of me is wondering whether the unit should just be a massive unit of Iron Drakes, because they're just as survivable in combat, really. And the stand and shoot with the king and that in there, they're probably quite scary. So I don't really spend rare points on anything. So I might try that as another variant. But anyway, I'm rambling. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one, and see you all soon. Bye, guys.